Healing starts with truth and is preserved with faith. No matter whether it's spiritual, mental, emotional, they all sit with the truth. Let's talk about it in today's Walking with Christ podcast. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to today's Walking with Christ podcast. I just want to invite you in as you continue to watch this video to like, share, subscribe, and let's continue to expand the reach of this community so we can make sure that in how that reach affects people is with the prominence of wanting God to be able to enter in to people's life. It's something that's so important. It's something that I want to ensure that you're reminded of in this platform, that this is, again, is all about honoring God, all about expanding how He is in people's lives so He can mold and shape people as people open themselves up to Him to allow those things to happen. And that's really a good segue into what we're going to talk about today, which is really aligned with the truth and sometimes what we see ourselves struggling with, which is making a way out of no way. You know, there are many of you out there that are struggling right now. You feel like maybe in some sense your back is up against the wall, and that is a hard place, a hard position to find yourself in. While no matter what position you see yourself in, that there is always a way. There is always His way, more importantly, that you have an opportunity to step into anew in some cases, and allow yourself to be transformed by the renewal of your heart, and to be able to move forward in a way that brings you to the point to where you can discover peace, where you can walk in peace, where you can allow that transformation to take place in you, to where He is living in you, to the point to where now it's not so much about always feeling convicted, it's about allowing Him controlling your life, so now you can live in a way that pleases Him, so the convictions don't come as much because you are doing what you need to be doing. You're doing what you need to be doing. As I said in previous videos, you're usually convicted because you're in a place to where you shouldn't be. You're in a place to where you need to be stepping in a direction that may not be the direction that is common and popular amongst the people that you have around you, or, you know, in a sense, have no choice but to be around because of where you work at, what you're pursuing at a given time. But there always is a choice in some way. It's a choice in how you choose to approach it. And there's a lot of truth in that choice. There is not just the things that we struggle with and that we feel like our back is up against the wall when we're in a physical concern, an issue that is prominent that may lead to being in a hospital, but it's also a thing of when you find your spiritual health in a state of flux, when you find your mental health in a state of flux, when you find your emotional health in a state of flux, that you know where and who you need to go to, and that way is the only true way for you to discover peace. Let's go ahead and dig into a scripture. We're going to start off with Isaiah 43:19, everybody. Again, Isaiah 43:19. And this is what it says. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Everyone out there are voids that we may seek to heal that may cause us to turn away from God's voice that truly heals. Sometimes for some people, and you may be looking at the screen right now, you're looking in so many directions to bring you healing. You're looking at so many services, so many opportunities and people for healing. But healing starts with God in your life. You have to go to him first. Now, of course, God could be using other people to be able to speak to you, and that requires something that we commonly speak of in these videos, which is your ability to be able to discern in those situations. But discerning and what you choose to do in those situations should bring you closer to God, not further away from him. And when you see yourself, this is where it gets unhealthy. When you see yourself relying more on the voices of others around you than the voice of God, then now you are traveling down dangerous territory. It's definitely one of those things to where you want to make sure God's voice is never lost to you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to hear his voice in a literal sense. Sometimes that may happen, sometimes it doesn't. And honestly, it's quite rare that it does happen. But his voice will show up in other ways. His voice will show up in things that come up in your life, whether you're just speaking to somebody and you hear something that they say that feels like it's God speaking through them, or whether honestly, you're reading something, or even sometimes you'll just be listening to something and there'll be a reoccurring theme that's popping up in different ways, whether it's when you're listening to a radio, reading something, or hearing something from somebody. And you have to really just take those moments and say to yourself, God, you're trying to tell me something. I'm listening. You've been trying to guide me to something. I'm willing. Because the part of it that we have to understand is that if we continue to navigate things in the way that we want to, that isn't true to how we are meant to navigate things, then yeah, we're going to track down a path. We may gain trajectory in what we're doing, but if it isn't something that you're supposed to be doing that's right with him, you'll constantly hear those nudges. And sometimes maybe it'll just be a drastic removal of what that thing is in your life, or a drastic experience to where he's been trying to get your attention. And some people say, because some people are stubborn, yeah, I'm just gonna do it this way. And sometimes when we face that big struggle, some people take it as, oh, why is this happening to me? Instead of God's making a way for me. And sometimes that's hard to see, especially when the situation is so deep. The situation is so, thick to what we see in front of us, as far as not being able to see how he's making a way out of no way. And sometimes that way isn't something that we see as the best option, but sometimes the best option is in what we don't see. I hope y'all heard that, because then that becomes a matter of not just our willingness, but something closely tied to that: our obedience, our faith in what he has for us. And if our faith is something that we want to be strong in our relationship with him, or that we're growing towards, there are things that you're going to step into that you believe are his way, and things that you may not be so sure about. But I spoke about spiritual maturity in a previous video, and sometimes you just got to step into it and do it. And if you start to see in that walk where you know that you're walking in his ways, you're walking with Christ, that, okay, I may not have it figured out as far as what's going on, but God, I trust you. And when you continue to lean into that trust in him, that faith in him, your walk and being obedient to that, then there will be healing that happens in that. I don't understand why I have to experience what feels like this rejection, this disappointment. But God, I trust you. You're going to make sure I go in the right direction. You're never going to lead me astray. And it's true, but accepting it has to be true as well. Accepting it, now there's a difference when you accept something and then you have deep doubt in your mind as you accept it. Quite truthfully, that's half-hearted acceptance. And that's natural, but it's something that you still need to work on to be able to mature in your walk. So it's definitely one of those things that we need to take to that, because the more we struggle with leaning into our faith and trust in him, the more we're going to have internal struggles with how we are allowing him to operate in our life. And those things will cause us issues in healing the things that are self-detrimental, or things that we allow ourselves to be surrounded with that could be harmful to us in so many ways. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the next verse. We're going to be reading from James 5:16, everyone. So James 5:16. And this is what it says. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. So this comes in to the healing of oneself, because there are some things that we hold tight to us, we hold onto, that really are truly holding us back. And it's part of that truth, and it's part of the things that cause us to stumble when we are trying to make a way out of no way, because you're sitting here trying to proceed forward and you got this big boulder on your back of something that has transpired throughout your life that you may have been trying to keep to yourself, hold as even a secret. And that can tear away at you throughout the years, tear away at you in different moments where you're just sitting in that deep thought of what has transpired throughout your life and reflecting and this trying to move forward, but you can't move forward in a true way because you got these thoughts, these feelings that are holding you back, and you haven't really gotten to the point to where, even if it's something you've done or something that somebody else has done and has affected you, that ability to live in that space, to allow forgiveness to take shape in your life, is something that you need to make sure you extend. Because in both ways, whether it's the things that you don't confess or the forgiveness that you don't extend, those things are causing problems, are causing stagnation in your life for some people. And for some people to just move on without dealing with it, it's always going to come back up. It's always going to come back up. It's always going to show its face again for the most part. So if you don't face it, you're really honestly living in a state of denial. And it's something that you don't have to. You don't have to live in that state of denial. It can be hard to face a situation, but it's even harder to live with it for the rest of your life. So it's definitely something that you should do at some point. I spoke about our relationship with my dad in the past, and when he was pretty much on his deathbed, going to pray with him as he was in his last moments. And it was important many years before that to give him, to give me as well, forgiveness over that relationship. Because for so many years, I was allowing myself to be held in bondage over my feelings over that relationship. And I knew it was important in those last moments to pray over him, not knowing what it would look like in between him and God, but it was important to release that. Because the things that you don't release, you live with. And that's when it becomes a burden for you. And you need to release those things. You need to give forgiveness and also confess. It's important because the powerfulness in that empowers your ability to live in a way that honors God. Just think if we weren't forgiven of the things that we've done. Just think if the things that have been done wrong, some people want people to confess the things that they've done wrong to them, and yet they sit in a position of never doing the same for anybody else. And that pride ain't never going to get you in the right direction. You got to lose that. Humility is required in order to confess and forgive, to allow yourself to move forward. And what does all this ultimately affect? It affects your ability to be at a state, at a point in time where you can find yourself having peace and joy. The things that you hold on to are keeping you from a life that can bring you that peace and joy. And I'm telling you, if you hear the common themes, holding on to things, not forgiving, not confessing, pride, keeping up with the things of the world, living with allowing your flesh to keep a hold of you. All these are themes taken to the trends and the patterns of the world, not learning from them, being worrisome, which in a sense feeds a lot of people's anxiety on a lot of things. All these things are connected in so many ways. And the thing of it is that the things that are required of you to move past that are the things that are extensions of grace, humility, and true growth. Being able to extend kindness. So they're not complete, total opposites in all ways, but they are very different in many ways, to where you need to allow the things that can shape you, that are traits of what Jesus exemplified to us, guide you in your walk. Because holding on to things, being vengeful, being spiteful, carrying the weight, lacking forgiveness, and as many have said, to include myself, forgiveness doesn't mean you forget, but it means that you release yourself and release them to be able to move forward. Forgiveness doesn't change what happens, but it does change what happens to you as a result of it and how you're able to move forward. God bless everyone.